Elon Musk narrates. When he asked the question, I paused for a moment. You create all these groundbreaking inventions, but are you truly happy? Simple, short, and direct. But the answer, not so simple. Even before the journalist spoke, I could feel his excitement. I had done many interviews before, but this one was different. The young man sitting across from me didn't seem like an ordinary journalist. His name tag read David Carter. His passion for technology and science was obvious. As he settled in, his hands trembled slightly. The sparkle in his eyes showed that this was a big moment for him. He was conducting a one-on-one interview with Elon Musk, a rare opportunity. I glanced outside the window. A SpaceX rocket was preparing for launch. My desk was covered with Tesla projects, Neuralink notes, AI algorithms, and sketches of Mars colonization plans. David's eyes scanned every detail in the room. He was fascinated by the technology surrounding him, but his true curiosity was focused on me. He opened his notebook and began taking notes. The first few questions were expected projects, innovation, predictions for the future. But then he hesitated. There was a brief silence. He took a deep breath, as if preparing to ask the real question weighing on his mind. And then he asked, You create all these groundbreaking inventions, but are you truly happy? I looked at him. His eyes held a curiosity beyond that of a typical journalist. He genuinely wanted to know. Had he prepared the question beforehand, or had it just come to him? I didn't know. But the moment he asked, the room went silent. People perceive success differently from the outside. They think that becoming a billionaire, creating revolutionary inventions, and having your name written in history books brings happiness. The truth is, when you accomplish something, your mind immediately shifts to the next problem. You never really say, I'm done. As a child, I was different. I always thought big. While others played, I read engineering books. Then came PayPal, Tesla, SpaceX. I kept building, creating things that would change people's lives. But after all these years, when I think about what true happiness is, the happiest moments aren't when I achieve a great milestone. For instance, when we launch a rocket, I feel a surge of pride, but it lasts only a moment. Then the next problem appears. How can we go further? How can we make it safer, faster? And the cycle continues. But sometimes I feel true happiness in the smallest things. Holding my sons in my arms. Seeing an engineer at SpaceX excitedly tell me how they solved a problem. Or hearing a Tesla owner talk about how their car has given them a sense of freedom. Those moments, yes, they warm my heart. But that feeling comes in waves. It rises and fades. All these great inventions, the mission to change humanity's destiny, do they truly make me happy? Maybe happiness isn't the right word. Let's call it fulfillment, satisfaction. My sense of happiness lies in the idea of leaving something behind for the world. David was still looking into my eyes, waiting for an answer. I turned to him and smiled. Happiness is fleeting, but meaning is permanent. If I were to abandon everything and live a simple life, would I truly be happy? I don't know. But I do know this: if one day people live on Mars, if AI works for the benefit of humanity, if the world builds a sustainable future, then, when I look back, I can say, yes, everything I did was worth it. At that moment, I saw the expression on David's face. His question was simple, but the answer was far more complex than he had anticipated. Then, David smiled slightly. His eyes reflected the effort of processing my words while also searching for his next question. He scribbled a few words in his notebook, then looked back up at me and asked, in a more relaxed tone, What about loneliness? With all that you do you ever stop and feel alone? This time I hesitated. Loneliness. I took a deep breath before answering. I glanced at the Neuralink sketches on my desk. A brief silence hung in the air, making the atmosphere heavier. This was perhaps the hardest question of all. Loneliness had always been a part of my world. Innovation, creating something new, taking risks. All of these came with a degree of isolation. But was I truly alone? Or was this loneliness a path I had chosen? David was waiting for my response, and I was gathering my thoughts. I smiled at him. An interesting question. I said, I've thought a lot about loneliness. I lifted my head and gazed out of the office window at the stars. In that moment, I saw a rocket ignite. I squinted slightly and let out a soft sigh. Loneliness is sometimes the price of great discoveries, but a person does not always choose to be alone. David listened carefully. I paused for a moment. My past, my journey, and all the risks I had taken flashed before my eyes. Yes, I feel lonely, often, but loneliness can also be the greatest source of motivation. To build something alone, to dream of a future no one else sees. That requires solitude. Yet, when shared with the right people, loneliness transforms into vision. David scribbled something in his notebook. He looked up and smiled slightly. He seemed to have expected a different answer, but my words had given him a new perspective. As for me, I looked out at the stars once again, and the only thought that crossed my mind was this: the future will not be shaped by those who remain alone, but by those who know how to share their dreams.